Uh, I'm going to splash a little water in my face and then I'm going to hit go.
Okay.
All the movies I'm familiar with have already lost.
No.
Like I don't even remember Lord of the Rings. I saw that like once.
Yeah. You never read it?
Never read it. No.
Oh man, Seth, you'd love Lord of the Rings. Good grief. It's such a great, I say that. My children hate it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they'll hate it, but it just doesn't do anything for them. They like the movies. Okay. But...
All right. Look at this. I'm so excited. I'm really excited about this, guys. So I'm sitting here with my brothers. Most of the OCYG world will recognize Seth pretty well because Seth has been, my younger brother, Seth, has been a teacher for the OCYG, actually a covenant group leader in the past, gone to camp with us. So a lot of people at Otter Creek, even beyond the youth group, will recognize Seth. And almost no one at Otter Creek will recognize my older brother, Greg. The Link family will. They've met you. The Links came through and picked up Benson during a Christmas break one time. Greg, have you ever been to Otter Creek? I don't believe you've ever been to Otter Creek.
I have been to Otter Creek, but it was before you were there.
Oh, yeah.
In college, all my buddies went to Lipscomb, great school. And,
Eric Henson and Brad Bratcher and Philip Cummings.
Cunningham.
Jonathan Moondog.
The whole gang. And I was up there a lot and went to Otter Creek a couple of times. That would have been, 90, 91, 92.
Of course, you visited when the Copelands lived in Nashville and went to Otter Creek.
Of course.
I
didn't remember they went to Otter Creek.
They did. Those are my earliest memories. In fact, the Copelands have an uncle / cousin who is a shepherd at Otter Creek. Fred Ewing.
Having said that, my family and I love Otter Creek very, very much. We pray for you guys all the time. And anyway.
And there was a chance we thought maybe Greg's oldest daughter might be heading to Vanderbilt in the fall, and maybe we could have gotten Jaron to Otter Creek in some ways. But anyway, so great to have you guys with us. This is really more for me than anything. Although I guess technically the fact that we're up at 6:20 in the morning is for Seth. Because Seth, you have in 41 minutes a hard stop to go to work.
Pretty much.
Tell us what you do. Tell us what you do now. Give us a sentence about where you live and what you do, both of you.
Go ahead, Seth.
I live in Nashville, Tennessee, of course, and working with Carvana LLC. I'm sure many in the Nashville area will be somewhat familiar, and even maybe in the DC area, seeing the big tower of cars, but been there for 2 years and love it. Absolutely love it.
Where did the South Nashville Tower, that car vending machine, where did that rank in the Carvana vending machines? Like, was that the 6th or the 10th?
First.
It was the first one.
It was the very first.
You've probably said that before, but I have forgotten.
Way to go, Seth.
No.
The first one.
I feel very accomplished.
And you love it at Carvana.
I do.
Oh, you love working there.
Yeah.
Is this your Carvana office? Are you at your office right now?
Yeah, can't you tell? I try to make it as obvious as possible.
They've upgraded.
I have somebody who lives next door to me.
Outside that door.
Quite early and he's probably
I can't believe we're up this early. It's quarantine. I don't even have to be at church this morning. And our church services don't start for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I don't even have to be there, and I'm up.
So I'll use that comment as my segue to do my introduction.
Yes.
It's not quite so early where I am, which Seth referred to a minute ago. So I'm an attorney. I live in Arlington, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. So I'm on the Eastern time zone, and so it's just 7:20 here where I am. I've been here with my family for 11 years, 12 years now, I guess. And I got two daughters, one of whom is a year younger than Benson and is graduating from high school this year, and currently plans to go to Northwestern in the fall, not Vandy. We were a little disappointed by that too, although we're excited about it.
We were very disappointed, but we're supportive.
I know. Thank you.
I'm excited that this might get me a little bit closer to meeting Michael Wilbon someday.
Yes, we'd probably do that. My younger daughter Suji, my older daughter's name is Jaren. My younger daughter Suji is actually 2 weeks older than Charity.
Yeah.
And Charity, who we all love, the Rubios and Seth and Otter Creek for loving you guys so much. But Charity and Suji, Charity is Suji's just best friend in the world. I mean, they don't talk as much as she does with some of our other friends, but their close connection in age has made them sisters in a very real way. So
yeah,
that's us. Hi, Otter Creek.
Well, you guys are aware of the movie franchise bracket tournament that's occurring right now. And I should let everybody know that as we record this, the second round voting is almost complete. We collect votes on many different social media platforms, and we did the Savory side, 24-hour voting window for Savory on Thursday to Friday, then Friday from 2 to Saturday 2, we did the sweet side. However, there are members of our community that don't engage social media in any way. And so every Sunday morning during the quarantine, we have sent out a weekly email to everybody from our leadership team, the youth ministry team. And this morning at 8 a.m., so in an hour and a half, we're going to send out an email that contains a Savory link and a sweet link for a Survey Monkey that anyone who has not had a chance to vote yet will get a chance to vote. Last week, 13 to 15 people voted in that round of voting. So it is possible that some things will change. In most of our matchups, it's not likely. Let me walk you through basically what's going on right now. Sorry, that's the wrong one. So as we sit currently, I've looked at the numbers and it looks like this bracket is going to stick pretty much. These totals are pretty well set. Avengers is going to move on. Shrek it looks like it's going to move on, although that one was fairly close. There's about a 30 vote difference, like 130 to 90 something. Then Indiana Jones is taking Dark Knight out pretty good. Toy Story is going to win. Rocky will lose. Now we got a real tight one with Cars and High School Musical, and I'm talking about one vote separates these two. I think it's Cars 122, High School Musical 123.
I want to tie another Zoom vote, man. That's what eyes on every one of these things.
I don't know if my heart can handle another tie.
You'll be fine.
But Cars, that one is coming down to the wire. Home Alone is going to beat Fast and Furious. Jurassic Park is going to take out Thor. Thor will be the first Marvel movie franchise to go down. It looks like, and the only one that will lose in this round. Chronicles of Narnia is losing to Lord of the Rings, although it's fairly close. Harry Potter is skating through. Lion King is going to beat Mission Impossible by 20 or 30 votes. That one's not that far apart. Back to the Future Hunger Games is really close. There's 2 votes that separate those two. Now, y'all may have noticed I made a little push yesterday personally from my personal Twitter and my personal Instagram to try and get Back to the Future fans to vote. But I am not calling people. I am not voting extra times. I haven't tried to coerce my son, who is not on social media and who will be voting today. I've not tried to coerce his vote. But 2 votes. So anyway, that one's coming down to the wire. Night at the Museum will lose. It looks like to Captain America. That one's pretty well over. Star Wars annihilated Ice Age. Jumanji is winning. I think it's 16 votes or 14 votes that separate them. So that one's fairly close, but probably Jumanji is going to move on. And then in these last 2, Marvel, Iron Man beats Ocean, and Pirates of the Caribbean has a comfortable lead on the Bourne movies. So that's where we are right now. And guys, I can jump back through to any of these. I thought that we would start here with this bracket simply because the original reason I thought of having you two on here was the Star Wars franchise. For reasons that are obvious to you two, may not be obvious to everybody watching. So, Greg, I think it was your idea to do this. Was it 6 years ago or?
So yeah, we the Rubio. So you're looking at all 3 of the children of Ron and Susan Rubio, Memphis, Tennessee, and we don't get together that often. I'm in DC, Seth, David in Nashville. but it's hard to get down to Memphis. And so for a while now, our habit has been every other Christmas that my family comes down to Memphis, and David's family and Seth are all in Memphis together for the better part of a full week. And it's, it's, I think 8 or 10 years now. I think it's been every other Christmas in Memphis, at least. I've been in DC, and it's just been some of our favorite weeks. Some of my family's favorite weeks. They love their cousins. They love their uncles and their Aunt Becky, and of course their grandparents so much. And we just have a blast. And 6 years ago, I guess, and I guess it coincided. It may have been my idea because, of course, it came about. It was 6 years ago was when they released episode 7.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
And
this was this pre-Rogue One?
This was pre-Rogue One.
Okay.
I think that's my memory.
I don't think we watched Rogue One that year, but
I don't think so either.
So
I think 6 years ago, and I guess it was me. I don't remember for sure, but somebody suggested that we watch all 6, and of course David brought his big screen or something and projector.
And we had a sheet.
Yeah, and we sat in my parents' living room, our old chocolate den from when we were kids, and
the chocolate den
because the color of our rug, which is no longer there, probably for health code reasons. And we watched all 6, had great discussions, as our family always does, about what order to watch them in. We watched all 6, and then we went and watched number 7 together, and it was just magical. And we've rebooted movie franchise marathons every time we've gotten together ever since, and we've gone and seen episodes 8 and 9 every time we've gotten together because it's every other Christmas.
Yeah, and one of those years, it may have been, I can't remember whether it was this last one with the Rise of Skywalker or the one before, but we've done some catching up and reminding and watching a few movies, but we haven't gone back to watch them all in order since that first time. Right. Do you guys remember the order we watched them in?
Didn't we go 1 through 6?
I do. Seth, do you remember?
We did not go 1 through 6.
No. We had a discussion will not surprise anybody that knows our family about how to do it.
Well, then we just went 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3.
No, we did not. Now, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3 is how they are currently listed on Disney Plus. If you go to Disney Plus and you click Star Wars, and then you go to the line where they have all the Star Wars, feature films, it has 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. But we did not do that.
Let me just keep guessing, and then
keep guessing.
How
many combinations of numbers?
How many different configurations there are?
Well,
I think Seth would know.
But there are certain. I mean, there's only a few orders that make any sense.
I mean, Seth probably knows how many configurations there are of the numerals 1 through 9. I mean, he knows that kind of thing off the top of his head, probably.
I remember
the logic of it. I'm trying to remember the conversation that we would have had and the reasoning for.
Do you remember the order and the reasoning, or just the order, Greg?
I remember the order. I know we can I say it? We went,
absolutely.
We went 4 and then went to 1 and watched. I think and then
no.
Yeah, we did. We went 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6.
That's not right.
Well,
I'll tell you why. Because there's there's a very specific reason that we did 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6. And I don't remember who, somebody on the internet suggested this, and I was sold. So there are some very specific reasons. The first reason being the most important reason to do 4 and then 5.
Because they blow up a big weapon in the sky. Is that the reason in 4?
No.
And wait, because they do that in every
movie.
Sorry.
No, it's because the I am your father moment in 5
right.
It makes no sense if the viewer has seen 1, 2, and 3. And that moment isn't just an interesting story point. It was an iconic cultural moment. Yeah. And has become one of the most, it's a top 3 most quoted line in other movies. Like if you
Comic book,
Google
of course.
movie quotes in other movies, that one, I don't know if it's number one, but it's in the top 3 or the top 5. I mean, that moment blew us away when in 1985 or 3 or whenever it came out.
Empire?
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back. 1980, yeah. So Brad Chrysler and David Skidmore are horrified that I forgot what year it came out. Yeah, that moment. So you preserve the amazement of that moment, and by saving the prequels until you've watched 4 and 5, you also you don't experience the same kind of special effects jolt when you go from episode 3 to episode 1.
Right.
And so you start with the most elementary and rudimentary special effects, which of course at the time were groundbreaking and amazing, and nobody'd seen anything like it, and it completely changed the way we watch movies. But by waiting to see 6 until the very end, you get what is truly a satisfying good guys win over bad guys ending.
Yeah.
Even though if you watch the wrong version, you see Hayden Christensen there, instead of the original Anakin.
Well, the other thing that now that you're saying this, I'm not sure we even discussed this or I brought it up. The other thing that strikes me is if you watch 4 and 5 first, you get, for viewers like my daughters who had not ever seen any of them before that incredible marathon we had 6 years ago at mom and dad's house, you get to see the best. I mean, you get to see 2 great movies.
Yeah.
You get to start, you sort of get, as we all did in real time through the years, you get to be sold onto this incredible story with these incredible characters in these 2 great movies, and then go back to 1.
Yeah, that's right.
which was not, which in my view at least was not as good. 2 even worse in my view. But so anyway, I think my daughters might not agree with me because they really liked 1 and 2 and 3 quite a bit. But I would say they liked those a lot because they had seen 4 and 5 first. They won't agree with
yes,
that. I think that's right.
Yeah, they care about the story before they watch number 1. Of course, part of why they loved 1, 2, and 3 is because they watched it with their cousins and they saw it the way that was their first time to see it.
Yeah, I think any of the Star Wars. I think,
and that
maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think it's right.
Well, it got me to thinking, because we knew we were going to cover this. It got me to thinking about my very first movie marathon. Now, I didn't become a youth minister until the very first time I was paid to do youth ministry was in the summer of 1994. But it was years before this. I was almost married at that point. Years before that, I watched my first movie marathon. And Seth, you remember what it was?
Yes, Rocky. Yes, of course.
Do you remember why we did it?
Losing presently, I might add.
Yeah. Rocky's going down. Well, that's another reason why, timing wise, I wanted to have this conversation today because Rocky, becomes irrelevant after it's eliminated from the tournament.
Technically relevant, right, if not practically.
Well, it may get some votes today. Who knows? I mean, it's still possibly alive.
Can I get an email with that link?
I'm going to make.
I've already voted on Twitter.
Can I make 20 burner accounts?
Yeah, exactly.
I am disappointed to see that Rocky is going to go out, but I can't
where
complain.
Were you guys? When
Toy Story.
Where did you watch that?
Well, do you remember the year, Seth? Was I in college?
It was definitely in the Chocolate Den.
Oh, it was in the Chocolate Den for sure. And I was either.
I think you had just. I think I was in 7th grade.
So I was about to graduate from high school.
You were. I think you'd already graduated.
Or I had just graduated. Yeah.
You must have. You had a great basketball coach back then, Seth. I do remember that.
Oh yes, I remember that very well. That's where I attribute all my skills to.
Obviously, right.
Seth, and I go ahead.
No. I think it was if memory serves. Was it circa Matt Hines hanging out with? So one of my very, very favorite memories of the Chocolate Den watching a movie with you, and it was Matt Hines was there.
Was Stephen Jerkins also there?
Oh.
That was in the Chocolate Den, wasn't it? The airplane. Airplane.
That was also the chocolate, and Dad was in the kitchen at the time. I very much remember his placement in that setting, but no, it was Lionheart.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
no, no, it was. Wait, I just quoted.
That's
Uh,
Lionheart. No, that's Lionheart.
okay, but you know what it sounds like so much too, is just said it for the first time and realized it is What About Bob when he gets out of the car when he gets.
Oh,
God,
blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Yeah. The fight arranger in the
no.
Lionheart.
So, but what's the quote? He says, "Hit, Hessinger."
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. That's a
Well,
very much
there
a
may
rabbit
possibly
hole.
be a word that I would have to say once I got started with that quote that I'd rather not say here.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But wasn't that the
But thank you
same?
for pointing out that I was a bad influence on you. Well, let's blame that one on Matt Hines.
That's what I
So,
blame my stuff on.
yes,
Wasn't that
Seth,
the
that's
same
about
time?
it. That's about the same time.
I think it
So
was the same
you were in middle school, and I was
Yeah.
I was in, I had either just graduated from high school or maybe was a freshman in college. And when I was a sophomore in college, you came to visit me for a week. It was around that time,
Yes.
and we took a whole day to watch the 5 Rocky movies. And I remember being so excited. And then I remember loving it. Do you remember when that was over with, coming away with any meta Rocky thoughts? I have one very specific thought.
I actually do. It's probably not. Um, I had an ironic thought at the time, which was as thrilling as that movie marathon was, and as much as I adored the Rockies, I actually didn't want them to make any more.
Really?
That was my.
Because Tommy Gunn's performance was so poor?
I was not going to bring up Tommy Gunn, but okay.
Tommy Morrison was. Yeah, he was epic. I mean, the acting was epically bad on his part, but
I loved that movie, though.
oh, I loved it. But no, I was just because, and this gets to even more of a meta overall thought about franchises in general.
When to
But
quit.
when to call it quits? Like I've always wrestled with, and obviously by the very nature of this entire bracket, and just the enjoyment thereof, it speaks to how much people love the fact that they don't quit. But in my mind, I just, you know what I mean? It's sort of an ironic thought that I just so I savored that so much that I didn't want to risk. And at that point, I was definitely starting to realize how money played into it, and just Hollywood, and just the cash grab and all that. So it's like I just something about wanting to savor the integrity of the story and not kind of ruin it by adding to it unnecessarily. And so it was just I loved the Rockies so much and loved that experience so much. I actually walked away thinking, man, I would just love it if they just tied a bow on this thing.
Oh.
But of course they didn't. But and actually, I haven't watched. I mean, I didn't really watch after 5.
I didn't either, Seth. I never saw Rocky Balboa.
I never saw Balboa.
I still haven't seen Creed 2. I saw the first Creed, but honestly, I think I fell asleep during it. So I'm sort of in the same, but I remember I thought it was about boxing, and that movie franchise, that marathon with you, I realized it's not about boxing. It's not a boxing movie. It's not a boxing franchise. It's a franchise about love and about marriage and about family. And the end of 5, the credit scene is a song. I think it's an Elton John song called "Measure of a Man." I've looked for it, and I think I was able to find it maybe on YouTube or some other source. I love that song and I love that moment. And he shares that moment. He runs up. It's like the credit scene is either just after or as he and his son ascend the steps together.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking there wasn't nearly as much boxing in this as there was family. And I love it. And that, which reminds me of another movie that will become irrelevant after the votes are revealed tomorrow. but Fast and Furious, which has become one of my favorite franchises, not because I love fast cars, not even because I love, good guy, bad guy, crime or adventure movies. It's because of family and the way they become family together. Some people are sometimes surprised that I love the Fast and Furious movies, but it's because of that idea, which of course, I think about when I think of us, remembering that Rocky Marathon with you, Seth, or remembering, thinking and treasuring the fact that our daughters and son, in Benson's case, their memories are being shaped and formed with family as they watch these stories play out. I remember wondering before we watched that Star Wars marathon, I remember thinking, is it going to be worth it to take all these hours away from our precious week? Yep. What is it about good stories that do this to us? I don't know. I can't explain it. Sometimes I'll get to thinking we're wasting our time watching movies and TV programs and shows, and because there's better things in life than watching a screen. But the way Star Wars has, the role it's played in our family's memories and thinking back on that Rocky Marathon is pretty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there obviously are better things in life than watching a screen, right?
Yeah, of course.
That may be the defining sentence of the last 5 or 6, 10 years in our culture.
Right.
But there aren't many better things in life than being with your family, doing something that's fun and that you all enjoy. And, maybe it's better if that's somehow analog, a basketball game or playing cards or playing Monopoly or something. But when you're sitting in a big room and you're, Uncle David's popping popcorn in the other room and bringing it in every 15 minutes, or Harmony's cooking
or kale chips.
Or Seth's doing his kale chips or whatever. Seth, the girls brought up your kale chips the other day. We were talking about Asheville. And how kale chips
Seth makes the greatest kale chips in the world.
And David makes the greast popcorn, as the OCYG probably knows.
It takes a little longer for Seth to make his kale chips. Yeah. Let's just put it that way.
It's a little
each one lovingly brushed.
Lovingly.
But I mean, it's when you're doing that with people that you love, and you're talking, and and you're sharing a human story, a story about family, or a story about a father who gets both of his legs and one of his hands cut off and then gets made into a robot, and several years later changes his face altogether.
Yeah.
Twice, as Darth Vader did, or maybe. Those are good times. We love them. Some precious memories for us. In case the OCYG universe is now wondering what my first movie franchise watch was, because I've been ignored now for a while. Just kidding. I think it must have been Rocky too. It must have been Rocky as well. I don't remember when it was, but I can't imagine that must have been it. And David, my thought was you probably were involved, because I almost certainly got the Rocky movies that I watched, if I watched them first, in some type of marathon from Blockbuster.
Oh yeah, my first job.
You would have been my go-to for that. So
Mary from work.
Yeah,
that's right. Diane Montesi was my manager at 585 South Perkins Road, and we got to rent for free two movies. We could have 2 unlimited rentals per day. We would just keep watching them and bringing them back. And I probably did get you those Rocky movies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, I want to make sure we're going to eventually, hopefully, talk about Mission Impossible, but we have to talk about this Lord of the Rings Chronicles matchup. Greg, you were the inspiration to my becoming a Lord of the Rings fan, because you, for a birthday or Christmas one year, got this huge, beautiful hardback copy of the Tolkien novels, and you read them. And I don't, you're about to tell us how many times you've read them, I'm sure, and things like that. This matchup, Chronicles has played a foundational role in who we are, I think. And we can talk about that a little bit too. So let's talk about these two stories, how similar they are. Their authors were, pub buddies in Britain. I mean, just amazing that they met up in a 2-7 match.
Do you think Tolkien and Lewis could have ever guessed where they would go today? I mean, here they are facing off against each other in the OCYG.
How far they've come.
how far they've come.
This is where do you go after this? I mean,
Nobody
And
knew
now-
them for years, and now here they are on the map.
And now bragging rights for life, it looks, for Lord of the Rings, Tolkien.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, no. I mean, look, the Chronicles of Narnia were probably our first. I think it's probably safe to say for all three of us were probably our first exposure to a beloved series of serious stories.
Yeah.
As the eldest son of Ron Rubio, I will be the one to step in and say that it's easily Dad's kind of core theology. I mean, he quotes from Narnia more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
He references Narnia. I think that's, at least in my experiences with him, it just is such a foundational part of who Dad and Mom are, and who they were as parents, and who they are as Christians and as people. So I mean, that exposure was from very, very early on. Seth, I don't know if you remember that as well, but certainly that's
Definitely. I do.
Yeah. Especially the last battle, Dad just quotes it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Dad's favorite is the last battle. And I don't, there's no way to measure what kind of impact that his love of the Narnia stories would have had on his family. But, the stories that we believe and the stories we tell ourselves change us. They make us who we are.
Right.
And so probably our own current faith and our journeys of faith have been just impacted in immeasurable ways by the fact of, Dad's just vision of God as the lion, and that do you have a favorite moment? I didn't love the Chronicle movies. I didn't love the Narnia movies in part because I loved the stories, the books so much, and the movies just failed to do it for me. Maybe it was the decades of having those in my imagination and the special effects and whatnot just failing so miserably. But is there a favorite moment for you from those stories?
I've only seen one of the movies, I think, or one or two at most. In the movies, they didn't really resonate with me as much. They were fun. I love the story, of course. I don't know, the from the books, I guess, the last battle has probably always been my favorite of the books. That's probably right.
The would it be the final scene from the last battle? The farther on or farther in?
Farther in and farther up, or whatever it is. Yeah, that's right.
Seth, what about for you?
I think mine has to be just from the OG Chronicles of Narnia. Just the
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where he comes back. I mean, with the ropes being chewed off. Just the imagery, and I remember, in fact, I mean, at Fall Creek Falls, Betty. Speaking of Fall Creek Falls memories, which we've had another thread and an email going on about that, but one of my vivid memories is Betty reading that story to me, and of course, Dad and I was weaned on it at every turn, but just I remember the moment that hit me of kind of what that meant, theologically, and just the coming back from the dead, and just it brought it to life, brought just in ways that I could never have imagined in my young mind that was still really forming in many ways what to believe and what to think. So it was, definitely that moment.
Yeah, Dragon Edmund at the well too.
It's
always been
the peeling back of the scales. I from the moment for me would be the moment where Edmund faces Aslan after he's left. He's been the betrayer and the traitor, and that moment where Lewis describes the lion and Edmund talking, and no one gets to hear it.
Right.
And it's just
the
lion and his traitor. And they're talking about it as they watch this happen, and the insinuation is that you're not going to hear about it, and we're going to move on. And that person, and it's as if it never happened. And our dad was that for me. He was the one who, in fact, I just, for crazy reason, this story came up just the other day. I was in a BMG music club, and my, I got all these,
I've thought about this recently too.
I got all these cassette tapes for a penny, and then I kept getting these free cassettes in the mail, and I didn't realize that I was supposed to be returning the cassette tapes or telling them that I didn't want them. And they sent me a bill for $150, and I was like ninth grade or something. And I went to my dad, and I was just, I was terrified, and I was costing us all this money. They were, the company was like, we're going to sue you or take your money or whatever. And I remember my dad just saying, I'll take care of it. And that was it, and he could tell I was hurt, and he could tell I was sorry. And I said, and he said, I'll take care of it. And I never heard about it again. I never heard about it again. I didn't have to pay it. I don't know if he sent a hey, don't back off or I'll sick my lawyer on you kind of letter, which is just like our dad.
They may still be sending him letters today.
Yeah, did you ever ask about it? You gotta get the.
I don't know. I just remember him saying, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Right.
And
it's an amazing moment. That book, and it's an amazing story. I think that's right.
And stories like that, they change us. He became the kind of man who could live the kind of life, and our mother too. It should be noted that while our dad's favorite movie to quote or books to quote are the Narnia Chronicles, our mom's favorite is probably the Bible. So, both of them, they became these individuals who followed in those footsteps and just lived lives, in our presence that were filled with the power of God at work through the cross and the tomb. And Narnia had a real role to play in that, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That's
right. Which is why it's so sad to see
it go out.
Narnia come up against the Lord of the Rings, where there's just not going to be a, Narnia
comes a little too obviously close to the symmetry of the story of Jesus to have quite the universal appeal. Yeah, perhaps that Tolkien's stories can.
It's overtly theological, in some key ways. Yeah. Lord of the Rings, I mean, it was never the core of our parents' sort of understanding the way Narnia was, but boy, is it core to me, and I think it has been to you too, David. At least
definitely number one favorite book of all time.
I read Hobbit early on, 6th or 7th grade, I guess, and I still continue to love the Hobbit story. It's always just been kind of a nice story for me. Lord of the Rings I read first in 8th grade, I remember distinctly, and it became immediately my favorite book and has remained my favorite written work, sort of a fiction. I think I've read them 7 times now, all 7, and read bits of them again and again and again and again, and read the Tolkien universe of stuff that goes along with it, and just really love all those stories so much. The movies weren't quite as good as I was hoping, but they were great, and they were epic, and they were
good,
fun.
They got close, and they did it well.
Yeah, my favorite book of the 3, is The Fellowship of the Ring. I mentioned this to you guys in the email the other day, is The Fellowship of the Ring. And one of the reasons the movies, I never quite loved the movies as much as I had hoped, is because my favorite moment in the trilogy is the Council of Elrond.
Yes.
In The Fellowship of the Ring.
In the books, yeah.
In the books, right? When Frodo and his first group of Frodo and Sam and Pip and then Mary first they encounter the ring race for the first time, and they make it to Rivendell, and they get together with everybody, and you hear the whole story. And
the whole story
of
the ring and Gollum.
And I can only imagine how Peter Jackson and his team tried to figure out how to do that. And I probably wouldn't have done it any better. I'm sure I wouldn't have. But that storytelling at the Council of Elrond has mesmerized me since I first read it, and continues to. I'll regularly go back and just read that chapter.
I'm the same way. Have we ever talked? I don't think we've ever talked about this. Maybe we have.
I love that chapter. And in the movie, that moment of the story, because they've built the story that gets told in the book in the Council of Elrond throughout the in the introduction.
Yeah, it's the first thing you see. Yeah,
right. So in the movie, that moment didn't quite capture it, but yeah, that's probably my favorite moment in all of literature.
Seth, have you read the Lord of the Rings books?
No.
Have you seen the Lord of the Rings movies?
I did see them. You know what? My biggest memory of Lord of the Rings is the credits of the Return of the King.
Yeah.
I literally sat. It was in the Otter Creek Gym. I watched it. I watched that for the first. Remember when you did the big
Yeah.
showing? And so I hadn't seen the Two Towers in forever at that time, even, and Fellowship of the Ring I'd only seen, I think, once. I'm definitely not familiar with the Lord of the Rings story as much as Greg or most anybody else probably, but I do remember sitting there thinking, what kind of collaboration? I mean, it's just a monument. I've never seen so many credit. It runs for, and it's not just like one line of credits down the center. The entire
It's like a screen full of names.
is
Yeah.
taken up with credits for minutes on end. I sat there literally, my mouth
Maybe
was.
they're just scrolling the 3 books. The 6 books.
If you read quickly, yeah, the 6 books are up there.
Anyway, I know it's.
Thank you for saying 6 books, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's right. That's so funny. Yeah. I love the movies. You know, for me, I thought that was going to be a 1 seed going into this. And as the committee, I realized the committee, you know, was going to put High School Musical in there, and that was fine with me. It turns out Lord of the Rings is going to make it farther than High School Musical, potentially. High School Musical may go down here. It's currently ahead by 1. But I was really disappointed that they didn't include the Scouring of the Shire.
Oh yeah.
In the movies. To me, that's essentially unforgivable. I mean, leaving Tom Bombadil out, I can forgive them for. It's sort of a standalone. It's not central to the story, even though you could make a case that from a meta-narrative standpoint, you dip back into the history of what Tolkien has done in Middle-earth. Bombadil matters, and it's a mistake to leave it out, but I get it.
Yeah.
Leaving out the Scouring of the Shire just because you don't want to see the Shire have to go through anything. Right. Come on.
That was weak.
That story. And because what you don't really get in the movies is you don't get the sense that they have irrevocably been changed by their adventure. Right. And they will never be the same again. And they're not like the rest of the hobbits.
Right.
They're twice the size of the hobbits, not to give anything away. At least, you know, Merry and Pippin are, or close to it. You know, and none of them are the same. And so it's such a, you know, for me, it's my second favorite thing in the 6 books after the Council of Elrond, the Scouring of the Shire is. I just think, but they're great, and they are deserving of you know, a victory, I think, over Chronicles in this tournament. Seth, before you go, and I know you have to go soon, you said something earlier about when to know when to stop. And I wanted you to talk about Tombstone. You know, where does Tombstone rank in your favorite movies of all time? and I want you to tell our viewers when it came out, you know, I think it was 93 or 94. You're probably a junior, senior in high school. Maybe it came out in 95, or I don't remember, but when it came out, how many times you saw it in the theater? And then are you glad they didn't make another Wyatt Earp, you know, novel, a prequel or something like that?
That's a great question. And yeah, I saw it 14 times in the first one.
You went to the theater. You paid to see it 14 times.
Paid full price. 14
at the theater. You saw it 14 times. Oh.
I mean,
you're on the Ridgeway 4, or where were you going?
That doesn't even include Apple Tree.
That's
the $1.50 movies.
The one that once it came, yeah. Oh yeah,
Greg,
way more times than that, but just the 14.
See it 14 times at the theater, Seth. Come on, that's just not.
No, he did. Because Titanic was second. I saw that 6 times at the theater, but it still was a far cry. Tombstone. Yeah.
You're a shareholder in whatever studio that is. Paramount. Who is that?
It just was, yeah, it's top 5 for me all time for sure. It's unbelievable. And that's to your point, David. It's one of the things I loved about it in subsequent years was just that it was just a standalone. I mean, probably Doc Holliday is maybe my favorite character of all time in movies. I mean, he's just maybe not all time. And it's again, but he is right up there. It's and the story of how just their family. Speaking of family, the families kind of weave together and just
the 3 brothers.
Just the brothers and their rapport and just the scope of it and it's pardon the cliche, but the black hats versus the white hats and just just epic. I mean, just epic. And I don't know what it was about. In fact, in years after, I tried to kind of go back and parse why it was that I loved that movie so much. And I think part of it was that it just from a purely cinematic standpoint, it stood alone. I mean, it really stood alone, and it stood on its own. And I don't know, it's not to say I don't absolutely love franchises and love where they take franchises, and it's certainly not to throw a wet blanket on the whole notion, but yeah, it was something about just I don't know, just the fact that it did stand alone and stood the test of time. I mean, I'm still to this day would love for Benson to watch it. Has Benson watched it yet? Remember, was it?
He has not. We own it. We're just waiting for you to come over and spend some time, with your nephew.
We were gonna.
I'm just kidding. We haven't owned it for very long. I bought it at a garage sale or something not long ago. So we have it. But we have not seen it. We've intentionally not watched it. I said I was joking completely, obviously.
One of the things that's so interesting to me about the whole bracket is just to see these franchises, some of which clearly made movies that should not have been made, clearly that added on to beloved shows in ways that shouldn't have been done. And what's really interesting about them is how often those movies in an analysis like this, like what you've got going on right now, get forgotten. Right?
That's right.
These franchises tend to be defined by their best episodes.
Cars is a great example.
Right. Home Alone is a great example.
Home Alone is a great example.
Because you've got a beloved, iconic, the fact that there's a couple of just real stinkers and that, you don't remember them, in large part.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just it's always been tough for me. In fact, I was talking with somebody about this yesterday. Of books vis-a-vis movies, and when they make the books into franchises or movies, and I was talking about it in terms of Ludlum's Bourne series, because the Bourne series is one of my favorite trilogies of all time.
Yeah,
the movies
for me. The books.
The books. Okay, yeah. To be clear, same.
Yeah, David, you introduced me to the Bourne books, and I love them.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
And the last Bourne movie was maybe one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Oh. Well,
and so much out.
If you've read the books, if you've read the books, you can't even watch the movies. You can't even watch the movies.
The Jackal. Is not even.
I know. I know. I'm the same way. The movies are fun. I've always said, this is a time where to enjoy those movies, you really just need to have not watched the movies at all. Not read the books. Every Count of Monte Cristo movie ever made is complete trash if you've read the book already. For me, The Matrix, I think I saw The Matrix in the theater, the first Matrix 4 different times. And then, of course, I went to see the subsequent ones. It's not in the tournament because it's R-rated. But that's a series of movies, a franchise where if they stop after number 1, I think it's better. I was entertained by 2 and 3, but if you press me, I'm not glad they made them.
Right.
Because 1 was so good. Unlike Back to the Future, which is different for me, the first one is clearly better, and most people would vote against it on the basis of number 2, the lack of quality for number 2. That people talk about it like it wasn't that good. 3 was pretty good or whatever. I loved them all, but I can see how Back to the Future 1 as a standalone movie just is taken down a notch or two by Back to the Future 2 and 3. So there really is, Hollywood's got a little bit of a dance to play with. What do we tarnish the legacy of this amazing story we've produced by tacking on extra?
Has there ever been a more, I'm curious as to your perception of this, but when I guess that would have been what, I would have been 10 or so, but has there ever been a more highly anticipated sequel than Back to the Future 2? I mean, I don't know, maybe Star Wars or something like that, but in my mind, that's why I'm asking, your perception on it, because in my mind, the Back to the Future 2, when it was coming out, or when it was just, in my mind at least, it was huge. Like, just the idea that they were going to do a sequel for this. I don't know if I was young, but it was just, it was when for me, it was becoming aware of sequels. Like, it was becoming aware of what even sequels were like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Godfather 1 doesn't end with an obvious to be continued on the screen.
Right.
Right. And if I recall correctly, when Back to the Future came out in the theaters, I don't think it said to be continued on the screen when it ended. When it came out on VHS and DVD, I think it did have it on there. I don't think it did when it first came out. Of course, when number 2 came out, the ending of 1 and the ending of 2 are so perfectly amazing. Number 2 ends, you'll recall, on the street in 1955, where Doc Brown, they cut back to the da 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 da.
He's come back.
And the lightning scene happens. They edit that up and cut it up from the first movie footage, and then it ends. And Doc Brown sent him to the future, and then the Marty from Back to the Future 2 returns, runs down the street and says, "Yes, I know you just sent me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future." And he says, "Great Scott," and then falls down. It's a practically perfect ending.
Yeah.
Which then you see to be concluded, and you realize number 3 is coming out. I don't know. For me, it was certainly the most anticipated of my lifetime. Culturally, it wasn't. I think episode 1, which was the 4th movie in the Star Wars franchise, is right up there, along with many of the other, subsequent Star Wars releases. But Greg, do you remember, or Seth for that matter, do y'all remember where we first saw Back to the Future? Where we saw it? I'm not even sure you went, Seth. Do you remember seeing it in the theater?
Not very well.
Okay. I watched Back to the Future 3 times in the theater in the summer of 1985. Do you remember what happened in the summer of 1985? For the Rubios?
That wasn't one.
That was our trip out west.
Was that our trip? I thought it was 84. Was 85 our trip out west?
I think it was 85.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I was first disappointed in Dad for the very first time ever.
For the very first time, disappointed in Dad coming back from Tijuana. That is a great moment in the Rubio family history. We watched Back to the Future with the Millers in Valparaiso, Indiana.
Oh, you're right.
The weekend it came out.
I do remember that. Yep.
I don't remember that, but
it was so good. We went to see it again in Oshkosh, Wisconsin with Diane Poe.
Mm-hmm.
And then when on the cross country teams, our dad was a cross country coach, cross country team's first trip to Nashville in August or September of that same summer, a month and a half later, the cross country team went to see it again in Nashville. And I saw it for a 3rd time at a theater in Nashville, 3 different cities. And I'm sure part of it, my love of that movie for me is just the feeling I had. Now, Greg, for you, was it Empire Strikes Back, the sequel or would it be Return of the Jedi?
Yeah. So for me, the most anticipated movie I've ever remember, sort of the release of which I remember was Return of the Jedi. I mean, you and I guess maybe it was just you and I, David, went with Aunt Brenda.
Oh my goodness.
1980.
Yeah.
And a very memorable trip to the Springs Mall. Is that?
No, it wasn't Raleigh Springs. It was like South Haven or something. Because we were on the state line road there with Mississippi.
Yeah, yeah. And went to watch Empire Strikes Back with Brenda, which
What was the name of that mall? Southland Mall, maybe? Brenda's car broke down.
Yep.
And some nice neighbor, this is like 3:00 in the afternoon, right after school.
Right.
Some person picked us up, took us to their house. I remember playing wiffle ball out back.
Yep, I do too.
For hours we stayed at this house. I think we ate dinner with them. Do you remember eating dinner at their house? And
I don't remember dinner, but I remember
Brenda's
being at
trying
their
to work out a way to get us to the
Yep.
theater, and Jerry came and picked us up. And we ended up seeing, I think, The Late Show, although at that point in our lives, maybe The Late Show was a 7:00 show.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories? Of course, I remember the feeling of just complete and total paralyzed emptiness at the end of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember my feeling at the end of that movie. I do distinctly remember, though, the Return of the Jedi came out at the end of my 6th grade year. I was Harding Academy's Get Well location, and my friends and I planned and all went to see, late May of 1983.
6th grade year, so this was Get Well. This was Mrs. Bodiford.
Yep, Ms. Bodiford's class, and we all went to the mall.
What a way to celebrate surviving that class.
She was the best. She was the best. Yeah, the Mall of Memphis had just opened a year or two before, I think, and we all went to the Mall of Memphis right after school, the last day of school, my 6th grade year, to see Return of the Jedi, and it was truly magical. I mean, really a magical moment in my life and in my childhood. Most of my magical moments in my childhood involved you two guys.
Yeah.
But that one was just so memorable because of the movie, because how excited we were about the movie. We had all grown up with those movies, and to have the third one coming out, and the end of school, and it was just a blast. That was so cool.
Yeah, that movie, at the time, the age we were, I don't think we were able to critique it the way we're able to look back and critique it now, but it was so exciting. And then the final battle and the lightning, the Darth Vader's redemption, Anakin's redemption, just really amazing. We haven't talked about Mission Impossible yet. And Seth, you had a 7 a.m. hard stop.
He quit his job.
This is it's too important. No, I mean, I do have a little bit of flexibility because I'm going to be going in a little later than I thought, so I'll be able to at least get back to sleep and get some shut eye before. So no, I've got a little bit more time, but maybe not too much. But
well, Seth, where do we go? Do we go to Mission Impossible next? Is that the next one we talk about?
I wanted to say too, just as an interjection with, you mentioned The Godfather. Was that not one of the most serendipitous moments of our last time together in Memphis? I mean, we weren't planning on watching Godfather, and we were all in there in the bedroom, and I thought, I really want to, let's make this a thing. I mean, I don't know how interested your kids are in Godfather, but just I would love to make that one of our, even 3 notwithstanding, because I'm not a huge fan of the 3rd.
Another movie they might not should have made.
Yeah, exactly.
Godfather 3.
Yeah.
I'm down.
But I would love it if we could, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention.
My kids would love that. They've seen a little bit of it. They'd love it.
Yeah,
the other thing I wanted. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think my kids, did not want to watch it that way because they wanted to start it from the very beginning of 1. We sort of stumbled in the middle of it, and that Godfather's one of those, Godfather 1 and 2. Wherever you join it, it's kind of like Shawshank Redemption. It doesn't matter if you're 20 minutes from the end or 20 minutes from the beginning. You can't stop watching it.
Yep.
So fascinating.
But I wanted to make sure, and speaking of franchises, just to have one that we figure out for our next.
The next time we get together.
Yeah. And the OCYG vote on it.
That's right. Yeah.
Very important. But Mission Impossible, I mean, Ghost Protocol, we can go there all day if you want. I love Ghost Protocol.
Is Ghost Protocol your favorite?
I don't know if it's my favorite. I really, really like it, though. And I, one of my favorite scenes and memories of Mission Impossible is just the rock climbing at the very beginning of two.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I
that's a
mean,
good.
It just goes downhill from there, literally and
yeah,
figuratively.
It's the high point of two.
it's not my exactly. It's not my favorite. I love three.
Oh,
Oh, three's great. I mean, three's Philip Seymour Hoffman is so
oh my
good in
goodness.
three.
That's one of the reasons I
So
love it so
good.
much. That scene where she's being held hostage. David, I was watching that scene in your house back when I lived with you guys.
Carrie Russell, she?
With
No, his wife
his wife.
Oh,
The-
yeah.
taped over the
Ethan,
mouth. Let's try not to spoil it for people because three,
yeah, we don't want to spoil it. It is one of the most intense,
Yeah.
well
Oh, yeah.
acted scenes in my memory.
every time. Yeah, that's right.
Every time I sat in your living room, it was the first time I'd seen that scene, and I just was riveted. Like I could not. I was just. It wasn't even in a theater, you know. Typically, my moments like that are in a theater when it's just the whole, you know, by sheer, you know, being overwhelmed. You're kind of on the edge of your seat,
Yeah.
quite literally. But no, I was sitting in that living room. I was just being amazed at the acting ability of Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise together and the chemistry on screen.
Yeah, they were
and
great.
oh,
I love Mission Impossible too. I love the franchise. I was really. I mean, yeah, I thought I've said this on Twitter a couple of times, but kudos to the seating committee. You guys just did such a good job with this bracket. So much fun. I'm voting every round. I look forward to it. I've been thinking way too much about it.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that MI was as low as it was. I guess not. You know, all the choices you guys picked were great, but you know, it's just such a great franchise. I love 3, 5, and 6 have just been fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought I just really enjoyed those. I still love 1.
Oh yeah.
It's funny to watch 1 now. We've talked about this before. I think it's funny to watch 1 now. You know, Mission Impossible is one of those franchises that lives off its tech, off its special effects, and off of its. It has since the beginning. But when you go back and watch 1 now, which I think was 96 or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah. I think it was 99 actually.
Okay. Anyway, some of the tech, some of the special effects is sort of laughably old in today's world. You know, I think at the time it didn't.
A floppy disk. I think they're floppy disk.
Internet searches to find
And the internet.
When he does the Job
316, what
yeah.
in the world is happening there, right? He's got like 6 search engines he's trying, and then he finds her. It's just a dumb. There's just
in a chat room. A chat room. Yeah.
Right. And she's there waiting on him in the chat room to talk. You know, it's the kind of thing. When I watched it, it's so funny. You know, when I watched it at the time, I think in real time, it seemed really cool and really impressive technology, but you know, today the world of technology has changed so much, and the movie franchise has obviously kept up with that,
right? Of
and
course.
and is so advanced, right, in that sense. But when you go back now and watch 1, it's kind of jarring how cartoonish their understanding of communication and of the virtual world in particular was.
That is so
but
true.
what a great franchise. I mean, it's I hope it survives here, but maybe not.
It's hard to know how much Mission Impossible, the franchise, has suffered in this tournament because the OCYG watched all 6 last summer. I mean, this was the last franchise we did a marathon with, and of course, it's no secret that the winner of this tournament will be our, you know, post quarantine. You know, whenever we can get everybody back together, we're going to watch, you know, the winning franchise as a youth group. And so, you know,
you may not want to, watch it again.
Lion King is set to topple Mission Impossible, and so, you know, it's got to be in part because we watched it last summer, but I just in general don't think most people appreciate, or, you know, in my circle, appreciate it as much as I do, and I'm not sure why. For me, you know, 2 is really the only one that stands out as subpar, mainly because of all the John Woo slow motion. I just wonder what John Woo would do with this, with like the video I'm going to edit. Like, how would he put our conversation about these movies together? My point being, his direction and the choices he made, I think, really hurts that movie. because otherwise it's okay. But 1, 3, and 4, 5, and 6 are all so good.
Yeah.
3 is probably my favorite, and certainly Philip Seymour Hoffman is my favorite bad guy.
I didn't realize 7 and 8 are in the works. Apparently, I didn't.
They
know.
are, and this is one where I'm just a little nervous.
Yeah,
David,
you're going too far.
That they're going to go too far. Yes, Seth.
David, do you remember the end of 6? How we sat there and we were in the theater.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We timed it.
Yeah. Why not just put more time on the timer?
Just put more time, or don't say, like, they always box themselves in.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's so obvious that you can even in After Effects go back and adjust the clicks.
Yes.
Yes. Why not just say 25 minutes? And because they say 10 minutes, I think, and it ends up being like 18 or something in real time, in movie time, not real time, movie time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, and of course, maybe only someone with a stopwatch is going to be keeping up with this, but we're the sons of a track coach.
That's what we do. Right.
That's what we do. It's in the same vein as, have you ever noticed that, please notice this, on any
I don't know. I mean, I might have noticed it. You got to ask it first.
When you're watching a Netflix series, when you're watching, I don't know if it's movies or if it's just TV series and seasons and shows. Whenever they're drinking a coffee, whenever there's a to-go like Starbucks cup.
Oh, it's empty.
Empty.
It's so frustrating.
Empty. It's
we can tell it's empty.
It's so obvious. Why don't they just put some liquid in it?
Just put some liquid in it, or make a cup that put some glue in it or something. Something that dirt. Put something in it.
Right.
How is it that that's a thing? Like, I don't get it.
The worst. This is nowhere close to movie franchises, but Lloyd Braun's cup of coffee that he brings to Frank Costanza when Lloyd and George are selling computers out of Frank's garage, maybe the most obvious and worst example of that ever. There's just nothing in that huge styrofoam
There's
cup.
Nothing.
Anyway.
You're right. It's so rare. And if it's not obvious that it's empty, it's about to spill.
Yeah.
Like they've written it in to the liquid has been written into the scene somehow.
I can't believe Lion King's taking Mission Impossible down. That makes me sad. But
and I don't know how that's possible either. I never even saw Lion King 1.5 or Lion King 3.5 or whatever the numbers are. I never saw them.
Right. Well, Harry Potter should not have any trouble with Lion King.
No. And again, I don't know where else we want to go here with our conversation. This has obviously been, I do want to ask you one more thing. There's a movie you guys might have seen, maybe you haven't. Have I asked you about the movie Hell or High Water?
You have not asked me about that.
Well, it's going to come up in my conversation with Brad Chrysler. I'm planning to do something like this with Brad a little later on. Brad is kind of my Nashville movie buddy, and we go to movies together quite often. And we went to see Hell or High Water, and we both remarked after it was over with that we both loved it, just absolutely loved it. And it's on Netflix right now, so you can watch it. It's a heavy movie. It's R-rated. I mean, if both of us said afterwards that our enjoyment of it was in part because we're a brother of brothers. Like, we have brothers. He has a brother, had a brother, brothers. I have 2 brothers. The fact that we have brothers, it's a movie that someone who's never been a brother to a brother
couldn't appreciate as much,
would just not be able to. I just don't think it's possible. I don't know. It made me want to mention it to you guys. I don't know if there's anything in here, that you want to talk about. I do think it's interesting. Karate Kid's made a little surge here. There's a 12 seed. It's probably not going to take Jumanji out, but I mean, if everybody that votes today in the email only votes for Karate Kid, it might take out Jumanji. And it reminds me, in the 80s,
the leg.
It might sweep the leg. I was a little surprised that Ralph Macchio became a big deal. I really was. I was just surprised. To me, it was just one of those where the movie moment never matched the actor for me. It just didn't. Even though I loved those movies, I always just thought they couldn't have picked somebody with a little more muscle tone.
I know.
I mean, because I get it. Karate, you don't have to be a bodybuilder or linebacker, but I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that has that thought about that.
Hey, Dave, can I just ask what percentage of your voting of the community that's voting on this are your youth groupers?
I don't know.
Just in general. I mean, do you have any sense? Is it half? Is it more than half?
I would think it's more than half. Well, I mean,
you're getting
actual teenagers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably around half. I mean, we're getting a lot of parents vote too.
I'm having fun with this bracket, man. This is so much fun.
We've got lots of moms and dads that are voting. I'm not sure who else out there is voting. I talked last night to a former intern who's watching it. He's entertained by it, but he didn't say that he's voting. I suspect he might be.
Yeah.
Will you guys be excited to see Cars take out High School Musical or not?
I called it. I called that one after round one. I'm glad. I mean, my kids love High School Musical. I've never been a big High School Musical fan. I just think it'd be fun to see that one seed go down. I'm a March Madness fan. I mean, I haven't talked to you about this, but I assume part of what's going on here is we just didn't get March Madness.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all big basketball fans and big March Madness fans. So it's fun to watch the bracket. It's been fun to watch your videos with Skidmore and the committee that you guys had. It's been fun to look at these and see whether there'd be any upsets. And I'm looking forward to the 9 taking out the 1. That might not happen, of course, but that would be fun to see. And I think this thing's going to go to chalk in a lot of senses. I mean, in some ways, the Marvel Avengers really isn't fair because the way Marvel Universe has been built has been to win this kind of to win this bracket. It's like these movies were made, this franchise was made to be just a behemoth, just in terms of the web. I mean, the fact you've got 3 or 4 different franchises in here that are built into that. And of course, they're great movies too. The Avengers is just such a good franchise.
What was the methodology for seeding?
The methodology for seeding. Well, we did some online research. I did. And then we had a committee. And so what I did, I would take, I sort of brought together an average of online thoughts and rankings. And I would take the top 20 movies, franchises, and then I would send them out. And I'd say to the committee, okay, everybody rank these. And rank these based on what you think a youth group like Otter Creek would want to watch at the end of a quarantine, what they're going to vote for. I didn't even say the thing about quarantine. I just said, based on, and it's people with, some knowledge of teenagers, youth ministers and people who work on our ministry team. And it was, where do you think they would rank these 20 movies? And then we did that probably 6 or 7 different times. And so, movies that rose to the top, we would do it again for those movies. And then we would take the next movie, we'd add others in and we'd mix it together. And then after each one, they would rank these movies 1 through 15 or whatever. And then at the end, I would say, what franchise are you surprised wasn't in this list? What franchise were you surprised was in this list? And so if 4 people said, I don't really think Fast and Furious should be in here, it dropped down. The next time we did a survey, it was in a lower range. So, no science behind it, just a whole bunch of people saying, I think they'd like to watch that, or I think they'd like to watch this.
Well, it's amazing how much of this has gone to chalk so far, how much of it has been by the seeding so far. It just speaks to the fact that you guys did a really good job. It's fun. Well, the one question I had asked was if, when we were in high school, 1990, when you graduated, David, you were a little younger, obviously. Yeah. What would the 1 seeds have been?
Yeah.
What were the 4?
Back to the Future, for sure.
Because Back to the Future 3 came out in 90.
Star Wars, for sure.
Star Wars would, do you include?
But the other 3 1 seeds in the current bracket weren't around yet at that point.
Yeah,
right. Avengers.
That's right. High School Musical and Harry Potter.
How many of the top?
Rocky's got to be there, right?
I would think Rocky is there for sure. No question. Star Wars.
Maybe
I
Back to the Future is probably right.
probably, when did The Last Crusade come out? I think it came out in 89. I think it would be Indiana Jones. I think Indiana Jones would have been a 1 seed if I'm right. I think I'm right that Back to the Future 3 came out in 90. And I think that Indiana Jones and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out in 89. So I think it would be those four.
Temple of Doom.
Back to the
Jaws?
Future, Jurassic Park. I'm sorry, not Jurassic Park. Jaws.
Like
Boy.
one was
That wouldn't. It's an R, right? So that wouldn't be.
Oh, that
Yeah, it is R. And of course, Godfather. If we're allowing R movies in, Godfather would have been there, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think by 90, Godfather 3 came out in 89, I think.
That's right. I think that's right. That's exactly right.
What did we say? Rocky, Star Wars, Back to the Future, Indiana
Jones. That may for a non-R.
Yeah.
I mean, for the bracket you got here, that might be it. That might be it. Fun.
It's been fun to try and think, what did I leave out that belonged in? I had somebody ask me the other day, did you consider the Beatles movies, Hard Day's Night?
Oh.
And we didn't. I didn't even think of them. And I don't know if that would classify or would qualify as a movie franchise. But one of my movie franchises, if you want to call it a movie franchise, and I don't know that you do, but maybe you do, would be the Marx Brothers movies. So I don't know, but I can't get enough of the Marx Brothers movies.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the risk of sounding magnanimous, this has been special.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you asking me to join, and getting to see you guys has been fun. The whole project's been fun for me, but I just miss you guys a lot. And wish I were in Nashville more often.
Yeah.
But thanks for doing this. This has been a blast. So much fun.
Absolutely. And thanks to COVID, I mean, we're all not really seeing much of anybody.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking while we were talking here, I was thinking how crazy it is that it took. This whole thing, including the Zoom interviews that you've been doing.
Yeah.
With people. Hopefully this will fare well in that group, but has been so much fun, and none of that happens. Hopefully everybody's healthy there in Nashville. Certainly hope you guys are taking care, and know you are. And you're going to be a little ahead of us opening up. Or whatever.
Well, we've already opened up here in Williamson County.
1st, right?
Yeah. Based on the numbers coming out of the Tennessee Department of Health, it's surprising to me that we've opened up the way we have so quickly, but economically people are just, people are just struggling to sit with it. I think we're going to see another spike down here. I think we're going to have some back and forth, but what do I know? Any thoughts on where this is going, the pandemic, in terms of how it changes culture? And
I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting. It certainly has, the society and the culture will follow the economy in large part. And this has just been such a huge hit to the economy. So we'll have to see how that plays out in the near and mid and long terms. I think it certainly has been instructive in terms of what life is like when you slow down a little bit, those kinds of things. I think we'll see some changes out of that. I think there will be some sort of overriding and long-term public health, kind of policies and principles that don't, that kind of remain.
Yeah.
And maybe ones that should have been, the threat of a pandemic has been there for a long time, and we probably should have been taking better account of it. And I think we'll, in some part, do that, so it'll be interesting to see, but certainly it's hate to see this happen. Hope that hopefully we can do what we need to save as many lives as possible, and pick back up, and whether we're the same or a little bit different, which I sort of expect.
I have the same kinds of thoughts. It'll be interesting to see.
I just hope Seth gets to come out of that closet pretty soon. That's really my biggest concern right now, is that he may be stuck there.
Seth, it's amazing. You're sitting on the floor in a closet. Thank you. I mean, this is a long time to be sitting on a floor.
Should we say here and now to sort of draw the parallel back to Seth's first bedroom?
Yes. Seth's first bedroom was a closet.
Was a closet.
All we're missing is the chest of drawers.
Well, this is
and Harry Potter, right? I mean, Seth's first bedroom. His crib was as when he was newborn and first came home. His crib was in the closet of mom and dad's bedroom.
Yeah. Or was it our bedroom? I mean, it was our bedroom at one point.
What later became? I mean, it may have been our bedroom at that time.
That was where
I think it was our bedroom.
Definitely our bedroom. I remember that because I have nightmares.
It was obviously your bedroom. It was your crib.
How many families of 5 do you think 3 sons share a bedroom anymore?
And we did our entire lives.
And a bedroom of that size.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like moving on up to the east side when we moved over to the other room.
What a magical upbringing, though.
It was.
Man, no complaints.
Do you remember the conversations about I think, Greg, I'm not sure you were in there if it was David and one of your friends, David, but when we moved into 3 beds in the other bedroom, we were all in separate beds.
Yeah. The master bedroom, the big one, the big bedroom.
The master, exactly. The conversations about Mike Tyson's punch. Would one punch from Mike Tyson kill you? Do you remember those conversations?
Yes, of course I do. Yes, because I think Trevor Berbick had just been knocked out, and Trevor Berbick, of course, world-class athlete or at least top-notch boxer, who was probably his life was shortened by a significant amount by that one punch. I think he was only punched one time in the ring, and he went out cold. He went out drunk. If you got to go watch the Tyson Berbick, I may show it down here in the corner, the punch of Mike Tyson versus Trevor Berbick, because he's punched into a complete stupor.
I sent you guys a punch on Twitter.
Yeah. You said yes. You said that just the other day.
A lightning bolt. The most memorable conversations we ever had, though, were when we were the 3 of us as very young children slept in the same large bed in that one small bedroom.
Oh yeah, and I know where you're going now.
David and I would Seth was very young. David and I would regularly warn him about the dogs.
Oh yeah,
that were coming to get him.
Dogs coming to get him.
It was very cruel on our part. He was legitimately terrified. We've apologized so many times for those moments ever since, because that was not fair to you, brother.
No, it wasn't. Seth, we love you so much.
Yeah.
Such a great uncle. And
brother.
You two are special brothers to me. I love you very much. I'm going to stop the recording here in a moment. I want to give you a chance to say goodbye as I clap for you.
Thank you. Well, we love you too, David. Love you, Seth, and to the OCYG and whoever's watching this. Really thank you guys for being such a big part of my family and my life through that. And just praise God for you guys, and so thankful for who you are. And though it's probably in large part because of who my brothers are in some ways, but thanks. It's been great to spend a little time with you. I hope there's some more ties so we can have some more Zooms and I can
overtime. Yeah, that was fun. I don't know if my heart can handle it. Seth, you want to say goodbye? And maybe when you say goodbye to us, can you, when do you think you'll be back to teaching for the OCYG?
I don't know. I miss you guys. I think about it so often. Even before this whole pandemic chaos, I was work has just been so demanding on my time, and including on Sundays, and it's really been I've been asking for over a year now to my manager about giving me some opportunities, and so I would love to get back with you guys. And some of you, I can't remember the last class I taught per se, but it must have been a couple of years ago at this point. And so I miss you guys. I love you, and I still pray for you, and just trust that the Lord is moving wonderfully in your lives. And we'll look forward to hopefully a time in the near future when I can come back and maybe teach Philippians or something. I think that was one of my favorites to teach, but But I do love you guys. And yes, I do well remember the Bradley Boshears
Yeah. Kiefer Saunders.
years of
Yeah.
Kiefer and yep, back in the, what was that, circa
Will
2004?
Netterville was in that group.
Well, Netterville.
Jackson Hearn was in that group.
Mason Lusk.
Yeah. Mason was a year younger, but yeah.
Yeah.
He was in 2010.
I'm thinking because I did, one of them was a Covenant group, and then the older
you
group,
would camp. Yeah.
the younger group was the Cabinet camp.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that was the Scott Bledsoe, Mason
Scott
Lusk,
Bledsoe.
Thomas Hammonds. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well,
memories.
hug your families for me. Seth, hug your roommate, your tenant.
All right. Love you guys.
Yeah. Love y'all too.
Love you.
See you soon, or maybe not, but love y'all.
See you.
Bye.
Love you.